Hey folks, welcome back to Indaba Africa. This is Chris here, coming to you live from Central Pennsylvania. Listen, a little bit of a snafu here, so I hope you're not disappointed. I don't think you will be, but our regularly scheduled guest is not going to be here with us. Had a little scheduling conflict, and so I've got a fill-in guest for today on the regular Saturday live stream here on Indaba Africa. And I'm going to bring in my guest in just a moment, but I want to welcome everybody to the stream. Glad to have you here along with me today. Thanks for everybody who tuned in yesterday for the Steve Hofmeyer program. It was brilliant. I mean, okay, I'm not boasting about myself. Steve was an excellent guest, and I think that it gave a lot of people an opportunity to see different sides of Steve Hofmeyer, so I hope you enjoyed it. Folks, let me go ahead and get my guest in here. Unathi Kwaza is supposed to be my guest today. Let's see how she's doing, if she's ready to come in here. So I'll bring her into the room, and we'll see how it goes. All right. Should be joining us. There you go. There's Unathi. Hey, Unathi, how are you?
I'm very well, Chris. How are you?
I think you need some more sun. You're losing your tan.
For this conversation, I'm going to identify as a black woman.
I think that's perfectly fine. So, folks, just so you know, Unathi had a scheduling conflict and we had to reschedule. So Jeremy has kindly agreed to fill in. So hang on a second here. I'm just trying to, I got to get this one out of the way. I'm trying to sort out these Zooms now because, so you look right on here. Hang on a second. Come on. Sorry. Zoom left, zoom right, and all participants off. Sorry, guys, for this mess around. There you go. There you go. That looks a little bit better. How's that, folks? Can you see better? Right. So for folks that you know, here's the deal. So Unathi couldn't come in today. She's not available. But Jeremy kindly offered to come in. We were touching base, and he was thanking me for getting her back on the program. And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to have her back on, but she had to bail today. He's like, oh, you mind if I come on? I'm like, not at all. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate the save.
Yes. Well, I see that Michael says Unathi is looking fabulous. Thank you.
I think it's the clothing choice. The checkered shirt really makes a difference there. It's kind
I think
of
so too.
On screen. It kind of looks like, you know, an ebony and ivory thing you got going there. It's black and white.
Yeah, that's the feel I'm going for, Chris. Obviously,
that's what you were shooting for. Well, success, result. Anyway, let me say hi to some of the folks in the stream. We've got Robin's there. She's saying, please tell Unathi how much I love the way she thinks. We will do that. Unathi will be here on Monday, which ironically is when she came on my stream the first time on a Monday, which was interesting. That was actually a pretty good day for me. A lot of folks who follow her came over and joined my channel, became subscribers as a result of that. I was surprised because from Monday, you usually don't get really big audiences for a lot of things, but it was a pretty good audience. So I was glad to have her there. So let me see. Robin, thanks for those thoughts. We'll keep those in mind for Monday and come back on Monday. This was not clickbait, folks. The intent wasn't to mislead you that Unathi was going to be here. She was going to be here. But I think my guest is just as appealing and interesting. The award-winning political cartoonist and satirist and biting political commentator on YouTube, one Jeremy Nell from Germ Warfare. Welcome, Germ.
Thank you for having me. I do like that title, award-winning. It's not a title that I use anymore though, because I stopped doing award ceremonies in about 2014. I stopped partaking, but you know, I guess I've still won awards, so I suppose I still am technically an award-winning cartoonist.
No, it's true. You get to carry that title I get to be Colonel forever. You know, it's and if I can become an ambassador or a cabinet member, then I'll get that title. But or a member of Congress or something stupid like that. I mean, important like that. You know, I'll get that title. But you can take whichever title. But this is a title that sticks with me now. So yeah, you get the award winning. I'll keep using it. You know, I had Steve on yesterday, and I called him the legendary Steve Hofmeyer on Facebook, on a couple South Africa Facebook groups that are here in the U.S. for South Africans who've left South Africa and come to the U.S. I had a couple smart alecks come on there and say, legend, and who's mine? And I said, listen, you know, whether you love him or hate him, his supporters and his detractors, he's a legend. He's legendary. He is a legend. Whether you like Steve Hofmeyer or not, you can dislike him. That's fine, but you can't deny the guy's a legend. That's just nonsense.
Steve is one of the greatest musicians in South African history.
Yeah, I agree with that. Robin said that please tell Germ that she went to your website to order a mug. She needs feedback. Would like to buy one. I don't know what happened there.
Robin, is it Robin? Is it Robin?
It is Robin.
I think I did get your email. I just haven't responded to any emails today. If it was today, I'm sorry about that.
And Rudy Geldenhuis is just subscribed. Thanks, Rudy. I don't know if that's because the stream or because they're watching other videos. But anyway, so yeah, that Steve Hofmeyer video is doing really well. Not to boast about it, but just to share is we had about 500 concurrent viewers, which is the best ever on my channel thus far. So thanks to everybody for that. And about 2289 for those who tuned in during the 2 hours. Afterwards, now we've had almost 4,000 viewers since then. That's really awesome.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I'm glad because it shows that people have an interest in Steve, and the fact that he played a little bit of music is even better.
That was awesome. Nice little medley there at the end. No, what happened is just before I put him in the waiting room for the stream, Yako Fundameva just gave a thumbs up super sticker. Thanks a lot, Yako. Appreciate it. I love that name. I've always liked the name of Fundameva. It's awesome, you know.
I just love the way you say it.
Well, I'm sure I get it wrong. I do my best, but yeah, no, it's I lost track of what I was saying. I do that sometimes. Yeah,
I see. Nigel he's asking if I can explain the meaning of cathedral.
Well, I was going to ask that. Are we talking about like the software company from the movie The Net, or are we talking about the actual what a cathedral is? What's he talking about? Was there something on your channel that I missed?
So yeah, it's a long complicated conversation. This is very much a red pill concept, but the very short summary is that the cathedral is a term that's that is applied to essentially the corporate and media hierarchies that dominate the narrative, and when you go outside of that or challenge it, you get excommunicated, as it were. In other words, it sort of it's about seeing the media and the government attack on freedoms as a cult, and the blind loyalty to the state is cult-like. I would suggest reading a bit of Michael Malice, fantastic author. He talks a lot about the cathedral. There's another philosopher called Mencius Mollbug, otherwise known as Curtis Yarvin, who I think coined the term the cathedral. So yeah, there you go.
All right, well, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it.
It's a bit of an Alice in Wonderland concept, but I can't explain it to you in like 30 seconds. I mean, I can explain to you, but it gets a bit long-winded and boring.
Yeah. Hey, so listen, a quick question. What do you think of my layout? Is this all right? People seem to like it yesterday when I had Steve on like this.
Well, I'm looking at you in Zoom, so let me switch over to YouTube.
Oh, okay.
If you want
Sorry.
Me to.
Yeah, just to take a peek at that. Yeah.
Oh, that looks great.
Yeah, no, because I still got the background and stuff. So yeah, I just trying to come up with the right mix. Yanni and I spent about half an hour horking around with this Friday night just to make sure we're straight, or Thursday night just to make sure we're straight for Steve. So it worked out pretty well. Yep.
I wanted to ask you, Chris, why do you insist on having mountains and trees in the background of your streams?
Much like the rugby shirts, I was looking for a background at the beginning, and this is a photo I took in Hollisburg near Olafansnek, which is just before you get to the exit for Rustenburg. If that's actually looking to the south, and so you're looking out the driver's side, the wrong side of the road in South Africa, the driver's side, the wrong side, the right, looking out the driver's side window to the south, driving on the motorway going towards Rustenburg, just about to go up a hill to Olafansnek. If you were to go left out that way, you go around, but if you go to the left, that's to the Royal Bafokeng Stadium. I really like this spot. I used to travel there a lot from Gaborone on my way to Pretoria or to Joburg. And so I've driven by this hundreds of times, and I just really good. It was a photo. I was looking for a background, and it kind of just became kind of, I don't know, my known for the background. A lot of people asked about it. A lot of people liked it, so I just kept it there. I'll probably change it some point when I get like super studio or something like that. But I like it, and I just made it my background, and people ask about it all the time. So it's just that, like wearing rugby jerseys. From the outset, I just started wearing rugby jerseys, and people like that, and so I just stuck with it. I think people are amazed.
That's pretty great.
I think people are amazed at how many rugby jerseys I actually have.
Yeah, you do seem to have quite a lot.
Yeah, I love it when people like Ronaldo try to give me crap about, well, how come you wore the Bulls jersey? You're just an uber Steve fan. No, out of respect and courtesy for my guest, when I had Gareth Mason on the channel, he's a Sharks fan. I had a Sharks jersey on. The one I don't have
is the Stormers top?
Of course, I have lots of Stormers tops. I'm a Stormers fan. I didn't wear it today because I had it on yesterday, so I just wore the 2019 polo today from the World Cup. But yeah, no, in fact, yesterday when you missed that because you left the stream early, I was talking to Steve because he's Blue Bulls fan. I started the Blue Bulls music, which got me a copyright claim disputing it. But anyway, and then
Oh, really?
oh, of course, yeah. They hit me very quickly with copyright claims. I have a license for every one of Giselle's songs. They've granted me a license for, and I have a copy of it. But YouTube doesn't let you put any of the copy in. There's no attachment. You can't put in, so you can only text and say. And so every time I play her music, I get a copyright claim. And then when I did her concert, in which we premiered all of her songs after they were all listed on digital platforms last month, so we decided to do a concert, an hour and a half. And so she came, not really a concert, but she came on. I talked to her about the video, then I played a song, and then we came back. We talked about the next song and what inspired her, how she wrote it, what it was all about, and we did that for the whole album to celebrate. Philins Mensa. And I have their permission. She was on the channel with me, and I got blocked. I didn't even get a chance to dispute the copyright. It's just blocked, so nobody can watch the video except me, which really pissed me off. And it's because the third party software tool that's used, it's not human. So I don't know what you have to put in there, but if you don't put something in there, it just blows you off.
Yeah.
So almost every one of my claims gets denied, and so the owner of the music has contacted those people and said, "Stop this! I've given the guy the right." It's just really annoying. So I just whatever. I go with it, go with the flow. We'll see if we can make it happen because people really like her music. So and it became kind of a signature thing for me, kind of like the rugby jerseys and the Mohammedsburg behind me. Not behind me, but on the screen. Those became kind of a signature thing for me, as well as Giselle's music, opening and closing my Straight Voltage live streams. But I stopped it for a month because it takes time. I have to sit there and dispute every one of them, and then most of them get denied, and it takes up a lot of time. So I was so busy researching videos and papers I'm working on that I didn't get back to it. So I finally started doing it again recently. I said, piss on it. I'll just trim it out. I'll play Giselle at the beginning, and if they make the copyright claim, I'll either trim it out or dispute it, and then the hell with them.
All right. Well, so what's been happening your side of the world?
Wow, gosh, lots of nonsense. The same. There was these two lawyers in New York. I don't know if you saw that. They are lawyers, and the one girl's 31. She's 31 years old. She ought to be an adult by now. They decided that they wanted to attack the police because she came to America at the age of 4 from Pakistan and grew up here, and apparently this is a horrible country. It's been so evil to her because she lived here safely and didn't have her clitoris sliced off when she was came of age, and she isn't forced to wear a burqa, and these horrible things that we do to people in this country. We don't make them do those things. And unfortunately, we the misery of forcing her to go to university and then, God forbid, allowing her to be an advocate, a lawyer, the terrible things in America. So she decided to take upon herself to toss a Molotov cocktail in an abandoned police car that had already been vandalized. Well,
I know about this.
It was caught on video. She's facing 45 years minimum in jail, and I hope she gets it. I hope she gets it. And I have no sympathy. I think Willem Petzer, I don't really follow his tweets, but he just popped up in my thread. And Willem's, he tweeted something from this lawyer in the States. Oh, isn't it so sad when people overreact and misbehave in the moment, they have to pay the rest of their lives? Yeah, well, if you murder somebody just because you were angry in the moment, that doesn't excuse the fact that you've taken a life. The intent here is to undermine the state and public order, and I hope they get 45 years. I have no empathy whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's kind of weird, Chris. You talk about empathy. In the last year, my levels of empathy and sympathy have dropped dramatically.
With good reason, man. With good reason.
I mean, the other day, I couldn't believe myself. But when I saw Antifa, Black Lives Matter people getting hit by cars because they were in the streets rioting, and so people were trying to move, and they got knocked over. And I honestly looked at this and I thought, fantastic. And in previous years, I would never have said that.
Well, I saw this video. It looked like it was, I don't know, it was here somewhere in the U.S. based on the street signs and the models of cars and everything. And I don't know how recent it was, but clearly I think it's something recent, but I can't prove the provenance of it. But I saw this thing on Twitter where this black guy rushes up to a car and tries to grab the drivers in this white sedan. And they're terrified. So they had slowed down, I guess, because the traffic light was ahead of them. You could see that the robot was up there. So they slowed down. And I don't know if this was a traffic camera from behind or whatever, or somebody in a car, but they captured this. Yeah. And this guy runs out and starts trying to grab him, beat them, and drag him out of the car. and they start to pull forward as they regain their senses. And some white guy comes to grab the black guy from behind, like, hey, try to, and there's a van there, one of these big vans, and he tries to pull him back, like, like you're doing it wrong. Well, as they pull forward, he won't let go. They move in towards the van, and they crush him up against the van and flip him up, and they go off down the road. And he's clearly, if he's still alive, he's got a broken pelvis. And you know what? In past, I would have had empathy because, oh, what a horrific thing. But I have no empathy for people like this. These people they're killing people. They're inciting violence. They're attacking people based on the color of their skin. Where is the outrage? Where is the outrage?
I hope that wait for this, when Trump wins the second term,
you're gonna trigger some folks there, Jeremy. Let me help you out with that triggering mechanism. Just thought I'd help you out there. 45.
Please keep it going. Yeah. I do hope that when he wins his second...
I'm going to scroll Colt there next to that Colt 45. No, I meant the malt. I meant the malt liquor, not the handgun.
I hope he just puts these terrorist groups in their place.
Well, I do. We've already started with Antifa. You notice you've not heard anything from Antifa since they were declared a domestic terrorist group. That's because...
Yes, they've been very quiet.
Yes, well, the FBI has been busy doing their job, and that's not spying on American politicians and political leaders, although they're probably still doing that, but actually going after domestic terrorist groups. But they have done nothing with Black Lives Matter, and I don't know what Trump's waiting for unless he's terrified it'll cost me an election, which I can understand. But you guarantee that the second week of November, Black Lives Matter will be declared a domestic terrorist organization, and then the rest of us will get back to the important things in life, like freedom. Today's word of the day: freedom. There you
go. Tell me something.
Yeah, what's that?
When are your streams? Do you? I mean, have you got a schedule?
I do. I didn't originally, but here's the deal, okay? Because I think a lot of my audience, about 75% of my audience these days is South African. Sometimes it gets up to 80% when more people come in droves.
It's fantastic, yeah.
No, it is fantastic, but I'm trying to keep a global audience, of course. But what happens is that when I first started doing the Stray Voltage live streams, now what I do is when I do videos, I almost always premiere them, and I like to be there to answer people's questions because they ask about the video, which puzzles a lot of people that don't understand YouTube. And that's fine because not everybody gets it, and it takes time to figure it out. But like, how can Chris be talking and typing at the same time? I'm not. I've recorded that video, and I'm just there in the chat when I do a premiere. I like to do premieres.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah, so I do premieres for most of my prepared videos. I started the Stray Voltage just because I was honestly worried about people in lockdown. I'm like, people are going to go nuts. They're going to swallow their 9mm. It's just crazy. I can't leave their house in South Africa. So I started doing that because I had a big South Africa audience, and it was focused in South Africa anyway. So it was informal, and I just did it off the cuff. But what I did is because Ronaldo had such a big popular following, also because early on he helped me get it get to about 200 subscribers. I had like 87, and a bunch of people came over that day. So as a gratitude, I didn't want to intrude on his thing. Plus, I probably wouldn't get some of the people who joined me because they were bigger fans of his before they knew me. So what I tried to do is avoid stepping on people. And so what I did is I didn't do it that. So I did the stream before Ronaldo, but I found myself running over, and people were leaving and to go to Ronaldo's stream. I said, don't let me do that. And I don't think you were doing live streams back then. If you were, I don't remember them. Or just
no, I started live streaming from basically from when I got back from honeymoon last year. So that would have been June. So about June.
Well, see, I didn't know about your live streams because I never caught them. I always caught you after the fact. And then
but what happened was but my live streams were only once a week.
Okay,
maybe every Monday night.
Maybe that's why I was missing it. And then and Roman wasn't doing any live streams initially that I ever saw, and then he started with things. So what happened is that I try to find a time that works U.S. and works South Africa, Botswana. So we're and so during lockdown that worked pretty well. Ronaldo was going on at 10, so I started doing 11, which would be 5 p.m. your time because he was doing 2 a day. And then I would start mine, and that way I didn't interfere with his, and it worked well. And because most people couldn't go to work, they were trapped in their homes, it worked. But when they eased the lockdown standards, I shifted around a little bit. But then after the ease of lockdown standards, suddenly Roman started doing a stream at 11 o'clock, 5 o'clock, which was at the same time as mine. And I said, well, you know what? I don't want to compete with Roman, so let me shift. I went ahead and shifted. And so I decided to go at noon, which is a good time for me, actually. It gives me time to work out in the morning, do research, and then prepare for it. So I made my regular scheduled stream at noon and 6 p.m. But before I got to that noon one, I had already been doing a show after Ronaldo's. And Ronaldo, he said, Chris, why are you going on at 9:35? Why don't you just go on at 9? I said, Ronaldo, because you never get off at 9, and a lot of my audience comes from your
Yeah.
channel. So why would I
Yeah.
do that? And I said, besides, I said, people have been watching your show for an hour. They want to go to the loo. They want to get something to drink. They want to get something to nosh on. So I figured it's a late one, and eventually I started calling it the Stray Voltage Night Owls Edition because it's mostly night owls in South Africa. People who are bored or don't have anything to do want to tune in and watch something rather than watching Mnet. So
Yeah.
so my 2 scheduled ones now, which I've kept to now for a couple months, are noon, 6 p.m. So I said U.S. time, and then 6 p.m. there. That's the Stray Voltage. Or anytime I have a special feature, when I have a guest. But I've always had the Saturday since I started the streams in April. Every Saturday at noon. It was 11, but I moved it to noon. Every Saturday at noon for consistency, I have a guest. So this is like Unathi would have been here. This is my regular schedule. But I have special features like yesterday. Anytime I can get a guest, I try to get them on at the same time just for consistency. So if I have a special feature, there won't be a Stray Voltage noon. I'll just have the Night Owls edition. And usually the Night Owls edition is a rundown of the news, and then also a discussion of whoever the guest was that day. So yeah. So it's for you. It's you would get it at 6 p.m. and 9:35 would be my regular scheduled streams every day. And that way, now I have run afoul of running into a few of your streams occasionally, and I don't know because I didn't know when yours are scheduled, but wasn't intentional if I did it.
That kind of stuff doesn't bother me at all.
Well, it doesn't bother me either, but I don't like to step on other people's, I mean, that's, By the way, hey, listen, can I steal some of your subscribers? I'm getting close to your subscriber total. I'm curious. I want to get a few of your subscribers.
Yeah, you can. No problem. My subscribers grow very slowly for some reason. Maybe it's because my topics are so diverse. I'm not sure.
But I think when I started watching, you had like 2,600 subscribers, so you've grown a lot from then. So since I started watching.
Yeah, I think I had about 3,000 subscribers at the beginning of lockdown, something to that effect. But what happened was it was quite interesting. I was doing a weekly stream, and then lockdown occurred, and then a lot of people just were at home, and Ramon started doing his morning shot news thing every morning. But what was funny was I started doing morning streams, not regularly. I didn't have a plan or anything. I just kind of decided to do it here and there, and I did it at 9 o'clock so that it wouldn't interfere with anybody's stream. And then it sort of became fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And people started enjoying it. And then I would always drink coffee because I don't drink alcohol at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then I just thought, let's just make it with coffee, And so there became, it just became a thing.
Well, your 9 o'clock one, I actually enjoy that. The problem for me is it's 3 in the morning. So sometimes I'm up because but sometimes I'm up and so I watch it. But like I was on one a few days back. But I got a $5 Canadian super chat from the Flying Boar. It says Antifa is the American the EFF of America. Yeah, in many respects they're very similar. What I love about Antifa is I find the name comically ironic. The anti-fascists. These guys are Sturmabteilung, SA brown shirts going through the streets beating people who disagree with them. It's the Nazis in the 1930s. That's who they are. So when they were finally declared a domestic terrorist group, I was joyous.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, these people are freaking nuts, man. We must put them on the train and send them to the camp.
Exactly. They do not like
go straight and take the Third Reich.
They do not broker any dissent, and it's just like that, man. It's absolutely crazy.
It's weird because that kind of mindset, it's a funny conversation to have. You go, okay, well, these people are just nuts. It's actually a result of society's broader picture. I mean, once you start seeing how society kind of devolves, and you realize that this is very expected stuff. What you're seeing is a result of democracy. This is why I am not a fan of democracy. This is why I don't believe in democracy. I don't support the idea of democracy at all. And I know that's a whole Pandora's box right there. But for me, democracy is essentially a gateway to socialism. And this is why you see so much of this kind of stuff in democratic countries. You see uprisings all the time. Democracy is not in any way robust. It's incredibly fragile, and this is one of the consequences.
Yeah, one of the things that as a young man I heard, now I don't think Reagan wasn't the original author of this quotation, but he repeated frequently. I don't know, it wasn't Nathan Hale or somebody like that, but talking about the tree of liberty must be refreshed with every generation, because basically people forget Reagan and whoever originally said that were spot on. I mean, it's insane to me that I spent so many years during the Cold War fighting Soviet expansion, totalitarianism, the Warsaw Pact, the Soviet Union, communism, only to see now, 30 years later, 30 years later, people have lost their freaking minds. I mean, people holding up Venezuela as a model, Iran as a model. My gosh, the people who talk about, liberty and respect for others, they murder homosexuals in Iran. They toss, in Syria, they toss homosexuals or suspected homosexuals out of buildings to their deaths. This is ghoulish, and these people stand up for that nonsense. It's insane.
Yeah, and the problem is that democracy always implodes. And even in the United States, democracy is imploding. You can see it. It's happening.
Well, there's some real threats here. I mean, for instance, we have people who are in political power who are intentionally trying to undermine the republic. And what I mean specifically about this mail-in ballot nonsense. And then you get people who disingenuously try to argue with you like, well, no, it's like, so, I'm military, or was military for my career. And I get this nonsense from people all the time. Like, well, you voted by mail. No, I didn't vote by mail. I voted, the mechanism was through the mail. I voted by absentee ballot as an authorized absentee voter because I'm registered. I showed up in person, produced identification in my state of Ohio in 1988 before I left to go on active duty in the Army, and I registered to vote. And every time there's an election, I have to re-register for that election and prove who I am, signing an affidavit who I am.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that is not mail-in balloting. So we just had this mail-in and balloting situation for the primary in New Jersey back in May. And the left progressive officials, which New Jersey is way off the charts leftist, almost all of them, but they outnumber Republicans there by 2-1 nearly, and conservatives by even more. So in that state, those officials at the County Board of Elections, they set aside, in Newark, I think the election was, 20% of the ballots as fraudulent in an all mail-in election for primary. Now, can you imagine if there were honest, dispassionate people entirely? They would have got, I'm sure it would have been a lot higher. That's because they couldn't deny obvious voter fraud. So that's what they can identify as obvious voter fraud. You would expect that to be maybe 1% or less. But if it's 20% of the ballots, that's absolutely insane. And this is what we're headed for in November. That's why I'm concerned.
Well, I mean, yes, why, Chris? I mean, since we're on the topic, yes, the fundamental problem with democracy, voting. It's a fundamental problem. What you're doing is that you're giving the future of the country into the hands of people who know nothing about economics, who know nothing about politics, who know nothing about anything, just about. And you're saying, hey, collectively go out and change the course of my future. Yeah. And that's based on the marketing campaign of the political party that you are voting for. Think about that. It's an unbelievable concept.
And I have thought about it. Yeah.
And I mean, in the comments, someone said democracy today doesn't mirror that of the ancient Greeks and Romans. No, not Romans.
Greeks and Romans, but Greeks in particular. Yeah.
Well, let's just understand something. Aristotle and Socrates both disliked democracy intensely, and were both highly critical of democracy. Democracy is not a system at all that should ever be, used. It's stupid. It's stupid to give the future of anything. I mean, would you? Okay, let me ask you a question. Yeah. In a nursing home, no, not a nursing home. In a nursing home for mentally handicapped people, would you say, well, let's have a democratic vote for the new doctor in charge? And hand it over to all these people who've got mental deficiencies? Well, obviously you won't, because you know that they're not sane enough. They've got all kinds of mental problems, and so you don't trust their judgment. So why do we trust the judgment of 20 million people who just live around us?
Well, listen, Jeremy, we don't, and that's why we have a unique system here in our representative democracy with checks and balances, and why our system was created by brilliant founders with the concept of divided power so that one branch couldn't become too powerful. But unfortunately, over the course of the last century, it has happened. The executive branch has become increasingly more powerful. It's the imperial executive in some respects. And that doesn't matter whether it's Trump or Obama or whoever. It's just the case ever since King Franklin assumed the office and even before that. But the problem, the situation is our system was set up very well from a standpoint that we've avoided tyranny of the majority. That's why these people, these idiots, these uneducated morons who run around and complain about the Electoral College don't understand the purpose of the Electoral College. But this is a union of states, not of peoples.
But that's right there already another problem, Chris.
How so?
The fact that you have to, the fact. Well, okay, look. So if we're going to compare democracy to democracy, sure, the US has probably got the best democracy in the world, all right, because it's got a very federalized breakdown, and I would love to see South Africa with a more federalized system, right? Absolutely agree with you. The big picture, though, the overarching picture is that I don't support democracy at all. But if I'm going to talk about democracies, then I'll certainly say that the US is one of the best, or if not the best. In actual fact, the US is probably the best country in the world. For a multitude of reasons. But the problem still remains that you are giving the future of the country over to millions of people. And then you say, okay, but we've got checks and balances in place. Well, then that just shows the fragility of democracy, that it's so fragile that you have to put in checks and balances to make it work better.
No, but I get your point. But I would argue that in order to get buy-in from people, you have to have some degree of participation from them. Now, a lot of people don't bother to participate, don't want to. But what I'm saying is that in the beginning, our system was designed with these checks and balances, but not everybody could vote. Women couldn't vote. People who did not own land couldn't vote. You had to be a landowner. You basically had to be part of the gentry to be a voter in the early history of the United States. Yeah. And so the vote was very restricted. As a young person, when I first started voting, I was like, I'm all idealistic. Everybody should be allowed to vote. We should all vote. How come only 55% of people show up for elections? It should be 95%. I was all into it. But as I get older, I'm like, you know what? If they don't want to vote, good. I don't need idiots coming to the ballot who are uninformed. I actually prefer they stay home. And to me, it's not illegitimate if only a third of the people turn up for an election if they're informed. But the problem is that a lot of those people turn up aren't informed. Hey, let me get to some comments here real quick. I want to get to. So Trinta Pinto says, it starts from school. My eldest son is only 10. He attends a very good boys' school, and already they're being taught about ideologies that leave me uncomfortable, not a balanced perspective. I understand where you're coming from, especially if you're paying private school fees for that. You should be incensed if you're paying private school fees for that, even if you pay taxes somewhere. And I don't want to throw a shout out here very quickly to someone I think is the right person. So Winnie Vandemeva said Antifa and BLM are the same. Yes, I agree with Vinny. Winnie, also, are you the same Winnie Vandemeva on the Facebook group, the South Africans in the U.S. Facebook group, who came back and defended my post about Steve Hofmeyr? If you are, bye donkey. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, because that person was being an ass. The comments they made, just being a total ass. And there was another person that came on there and said some nonsense about Trump, calling him Trump. You know what? If you're a South African, you came to America, and you want to talk about our political system this way, get the hell out of here. We don't need you in the United States if you're going to piss on our system. If you come here, you accept our norms and mores. You dislike Trump, that's fine. But don't call the guy names just because you dislike him because you're a leftist. And we don't need that.
I think he's, in my opinion, in the top 3 greatest U.S. presidents in history, in my opinion.
I think that's a bit of a stretch, but hang on, and I'll come back in a second. I just want to get more comment here. Donna Tango 63 says, by the way, she's a veteran, if I'm not mistaken. A democracy is nothing more than mob rule, where 51% of people take away their rights, the other 49%, Thomas Jefferson. Exactly right. That's why you have to have checks and balances, so that it's not the tyranny of the majority. You can't have the tyranny of minority, which we had under a real minority, a serious minority, not even all the white folks in South Africa, under apartheid. But you can't have tyranny of the majority either. Otherwise, all you need is 51%, first past the post, and people can have whatever they want, and you can have chaos, which is what people are pushing for. Okay, so back to Trump, top 3 presidents. Yeah, I think that's difficult. We've had some amazing presidents. George Washington was a brilliant president. Abraham Lincoln was a brilliant president. There have been a number of others. Ronald Reagan was a brilliant president. Those 3 right there would all 3 be above Trump for me. But I have to say, I caution a lot of my friends who were evangelicals, because they voted like 90+% for Trump, the highest percentage ever of evangelicals for any presidential candidate, and it was all about the court appointments. So they voted for him. And I said, listen, this guy's not a Republican. He's P.T. Barnum. He's a charlatan. He will break your heart, and I'm voting for him. It's because I can't vote for a felon. Hillary Clinton's a felon. She broke the espionage law. She ought to be in federal prison right now. And I don't need a trial for that. I'm a counterintelligence agent, and I know the law, and I know she broke the law based on her statements. Anyway, so I couldn't possibly vote for her. So I would vote for Trump, but I'll do so not because I dislike the guy. I do so, and not grudgingly, but just because it was my option. But now, 3 years later, I'm all in. I'll vote for the guy with no problem. I don't care that he's a cad, that he's a bore, that he's a bully. That doesn't bother me anymore. He gets results, and if it wasn't for the subterfuge and the deep state undermining of him and these fake conspiracies that have destroyed our foreign policy reputation domestically, or overseas and domestically, destroyed our reputation, this guy would have accomplished so much more. Sorry, go ahead.
No. But I've said this a few times. I think Trump is one of the greatest presidents ever, not for his policies. I'm not really interested in the economy. The economy is doing fine. It'll do fine under any president, I suppose.
Not under Obama.
Well, yeah, but I mean, by and large, it's much of a muchness. These policies, they get changed again in 5 years' time if he loses office, whatever. Right. For me, what makes him great, actually, is what he symbolizes, is what he represents. We've reached we're entering a weird stage in sort of modern history now, where culture wars are dominating the narrative in the West, without a doubt. People don't care about truth anymore. Truth is something that is not important. What matters is narrative. What matters is postmodernist relativity. It's deconstruction of everything. It's breaking down everything that is considered wholesome and the norm. We have hundreds of thousands of genders. The family is under attack. Everything that is considered to be normal is now considered to be problematic and must be broken apart. Trump represents opposing that. He openly talks about things about opposing leftist nonsense. He sees two genders with extremities, and whatever happens in between is not the norm. It's the exception. Whereas the media and sort of the left are trying to instill in our minds that this kind of stuff is the norm when it isn't.
Yep.
And so for me, what he represents is basically anti-leftism.
Yeah, I got you.
And that's massive. That's massively important. Bolsonaro of Brazil represents the same thing.
Yeah, no, listen, I got you on that. I don't disagree on that, and that's one of the reasons why I actually like the guy is that he's just stood up for reality here. Now it gets on my nerves just how the truth doesn't matter. I'll get to that in a second. Let me get a couple super chats here real quick. The Flying Board gave a $5 Canadian super chat saying, "Send Antifa to South Africa and see how long they last." I appreciate that one. They might last a long time in South Africa. They would have cozy buddies with the EFF. They'd hang out with them. And they said another $5 Canadian super chat says, "Funny thing is that the socialist communist left hates capitalism but lives in a capitalist country." Of course, and they undermine it from within. The same with communists. That's what they do. They derive all their look at Black Lives Matter is about making money. That's what it's about. That site is all about making money, and we see discussing.
But that's democracy. That's what democracy allows. It's freedom of expression.
Well, freedom of expression isn't democracy. That's a tenet that people espouse in democracies, but it's not unique to democracies. You can have other states that have freedom of expression, but different models.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that it's allowed. Another example is the EFF could become the government of South Africa.
No. They'll plateau at 15%. They're not going any higher.
No. Listen to what I'm saying. In theory, Mugabe in a democracy became the president of Zimbabwe, and look at Zimbabwe today. In theory, the EFF could be voted into power, and then South Africa collapses into another African shithole.
Wait a second. I'm sorry, Mr. Trump. What did you say?
And that's what democracy allows. And then you go, oh, they voted wrong. No, they didn't.
They voted for what they wanted.
They voted for what they wanted, and what they wanted is a collapse of the country. And so that means that there's more democracy. Basically, what happens now is that democracy has won.
Well,
and it just shows the instability and the fragility of democracy.
Well, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about the inherent weakness of a democracy is that it can be hijacked. Look at the National Socialist Party. Hitler came to power as chancellor with only 33% of the popular vote. but it was the
Yeah,
largest.
yeah.
They had the plurality amongst all the parties, and they hoodwinked the chancellor, the president, into making Hitler the chancellor, and then it all went downhill from there. They just went out and started beating up their opponents, rounding up homosexuals and socialists and communists, sticking them in Dachau in a concentration camp. And what people don't know about the Nazis, they went after everybody. They started with the socialists and the communists and homosexuals. Then they went to mixed race Germans and people like mixed race Germans. Yeah, there was about a couple 100,000 West African troops that lived in the Rhineland for 20 years, and they were knocking boots with Germans and having kids. And so there were about 50,000 mixed race Germans. They were sent to the camps and died in mass too. And then after they got them, they went after the gentry, the aristocracy, the Junker class. They went after the Catholics and organized religion. They went after anybody. In the end, eventually they come for you. And that's pretty scary stuff.
So, I mean, democracy is actually a pretty new thing. They spoke about it. They spoke about it in the ancient Greek times, but democracy wasn't really a thing. It wasn't actually a global phenomenon at all. It was very, dispersed. The system that is by far superior to democracy, and I know that people's jaws are going to go.
You're going to go back to monarchy. Here it comes. He wants a monarchy.
But it's monarchy, and it's the most robust and anti-fragile system in history. It's lasted the longest throughout history. It's been the most stable, and it doesn't always mean tyranny. Liechtenstein is an absolute monarchy.
Yes,
and it's thriving
with 23,000 people. It sure is. 30,000.
No. But population numbers aren't the problem. The fact is that 23,000 is still a large enough number to govern. It's a lot of people, regardless. But it also just goes to show that smaller populations are easier to govern. Look,
no, that's true. Look at Botswana. It's a very successful. Look at Mauritius.
Well, I mean, look at India.
Cape Verde. Well, yeah, that's the world's largest democracy, and it's a mess.
Yeah, or look at China. It's so massive they have to be draconian.
They should just.
But I mean,
up.
look, it's a conversation that is quite long and complicated, and it requires a very good understanding of history. But the point is this: is essentially, if you want a stable system, you need to remove political parties. There we go. First and foremost, you can't vote.
Well, listen. In our country, our founders warned us of that. George Washington specifically talked about the danger of political parties and partisanship.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, it's developed.
But I mean, as I said, the U.S. is the best democracy in the world.
Yeah,
it's the best functioning democracy in the world. It doesn't mean that it's not fragile, but it's certainly the best functioning democracy in the world.
What I have to say to that is, if anybody thought it wasn't fragile, just look at the horse crap going on now. I mean, this is. I mean, here I spent 36 and a half years in uniform supporting defending the Constitution so that everybody gets equal treatment and no one is mistreated, and we all have access to our rights. Most of that time abroad, serving abroad, helping people around the world, and also supporting our national, defending our national security, our friends, partners, and allies, only to come home and see these idiots run in the streets and attack people based on skin color and stoke racial hatred and make false claims about institutional racism, this, that, and the other. When as I will say, give Steve Hofmeyer credit for this, this is the most equal time in the history of mankind. Oppressed peoples, by and large, most around the planet, are the least oppressed they've ever been, have the most access to things. The average person, even in a poor country like Liberia, has access to things that monarchs could only dream of 100 years ago. Mobile telephones and satellite television and cars and access to travel. It just drives me nuts. Let me catch up on a super chat here and a couple comments. So the Flying Board gave another one, and he said South Africa needs someone like P.W. Botha, a hard and tough guy. I guess that would probably fall in line with Germs going with monarch. You know, that'd be a good choice. But and I'll get back to the monarchy thing in a second. But Devolve says journalists, politicians, etc., are all playing their part to gain wealth while you're made to pay for it and suffer while carrying this burden. I don't disagree. And Citizen Guardian says, what I can't understand for the life of me is people who complain about capitalism while using their Androids, iPhones, which they would not have without capitalism. Yeah, absolutely exactly. True. And what I can't understand is this. This is the thing that always gets me, Jerm, to get away from the monarchy thing. We'll get back to it. Is people like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, all these idiots who through their entrepreneurialism or taking advantage of rules, which is what Bill Gates did. He used monopolistic practices and got away with it for a decade. But nonetheless, having ideas and concepts that create new markets, new products, new wealth, and grow the world's economy. Once they become incredibly wealthy, suddenly they're socialist, and they think that they get to decide what we have to pay in taxes and what we have to give away to other people.
They're not socialists; they're actors, and they.
There you go. They're actors.
They're actors because they're not actually. Malema's not a socialist either. He pretends to be one, but there is no true socialist. Show me one true socialist. They all love their iPhone and their Twitter, and they love all their capitalist stuff. But they say they're socialists so that they can seem virtuous. But every single person who claims to be a socialist enjoys the benefits of capitalism.
Absolutely true. Folks, you're listening to Chris White Africa on the Indaba Africa channel here on YouTube. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. My special feature, or not my special, this is not a special, this is the normal Saturday live stream. Sorry, I've done so many specials.
I am special, Chris. I am special.
No, hang on. You be quiet there. I'm going to put you in a corner. Hang on. No, but my feature, my Saturday live stream guest today is Unathi Kwaza, and she's looking a little jaundiced today. So anyway, no, for if you've tuned in to watch Unathi, it was not clickbait, folks. It was she was scheduled to be on, but had a conflict, and we have to reschedule. Unathi will be on the stream Monday. I'll put another banner up and reload that. But Germ kindly offered to fill in and be my guest today, and so the Flying Boar's got another $5 super chat. Says, don't forget Mark Zuckerberg. I always have a hard time saying his name properly. Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Dorsey, who are anti-Trump. That's true. So let's get back to the monarchy thing, man. Why are you so in love with monarchies? I mean, listen, I wouldn't mind, being the monarch of the e-commerce capital of Africa, Eswatini, because the reed dance is really cool. I'm into that.
No, look, it depends. Look, okay, so we tend to speak about the things that we're reading about, wouldn't you say? So if you're reading a book about, I don't know, Hitler.
Well, the average person does that, yes.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're reading a book about whatever it might be, it's on your mind until you finish that book and probably for a while afterwards. And currently I'm busy reading books about sort of monarchies and democracies. I'd recommend a book by Hans Hermann Hoppe called Democracy, the God That Failed. Phenomenal book. And the idea really is this, Chris. It's not that a monarchy is a system. It's the fact that monarchy is closer to natural order. It's closer to conservatism. It's closer to pure human behavior. It's less utopian and it's more sustainable. So democracy, for example, is a fairly leftist ideal. It's about trying to create a society that should be great for all people, for the most amount of people. And that leads to, say, socialism and communism, which is the ultimate utopian society where everybody's equal and you don't have to work if you don't want to, that kind of thing. And you can lie on the beach and read books all day long and it'll get subsidized by other people. That's the ultimate communist utopia. And Karl Marx actually wrote about it. And I would recommend people read Karl Marx, which I've done. So you get a good insight into what he actually is all about, and you realize that it's all dreamy stuff. I mean, he was a lazy arsehole. I mean, he was funded by a capitalist.
He was a sponge, an absolute sponge.
Yeah,
and that was his whole life. Just like Bernie Sanders, another sponge.
Yeah. So what you want actually is basically not a system. What you want is just people to behave in a fairly natural way. Murder is not a natural way, just by the way. I know that people are going to say stuff like that. That's not natural. That's the minority. If it was the majority, we wouldn't have increasing populations. Humans would have died out long ago.
Well, before you go on that, it's like I make the same argument about people. I had this conversation with someone in the UK the other day. Oh my God, Chris, you believe in gun rights? I'm like, you're damn skippy, I do. Oh, if people have guns, everybody will die. Like, are you serious? There's 360 million guns in the U.S. If that were a problem, if legitimate people who were entitled to have guns and were responsible were just shooting people, we'd have thousands of homicides per day in this country, but we don't. So like you're saying, the same sort of argument.
And one of the biggest problems, and one of the things that triggered the sort of very rapid advancement towards democracies everywhere was the French Revolution. The French Revolution was one of the worst things that could have happened in modern history.
Bad mojo.
Terrible. It was a terrible thing. But to say that makes you sound politically incorrect, because you don't say that. Oh no, it was about Marie Antoinette eating expensive food, and all the starving peasants were outside the window. And of course, a lot of that just was absolute rubbish. That's just revisionist history.
It was about these radicals like Robespierre and all these people, and they killed everyone else, and then they got it in the end too, and they got what they deserved.
So I mean, so the reason why I speak about monarchies is not. And it's a difficult conversation, because if I say monarchy, people think of King Zwelithini, or you think of Shaka Zulu, or you think of really bad apples. Yes, lots of bad apples, but you have lots of bad apples in democracies too. Look at Robert Mugabe.
No, absolutely right. Shirley Creed has just said something in the chat, and I say this jokingly, but I mean, if it was ever offered to me, I'd be happy to do it. She says, so what we need is a benevolent despot. No, not a despot. What I've always said jokingly, and this is something I would love to be the benign dictator of a small African country, and
right.
I would abdicate my title after a period of a decade or so when I proved that good governance is possible, and I have inculcated and developed leaders behind me who can take over the role, so that I don't sit there forever, because I don't have the big man complex. I've always said that in joking fashion for like 20 or 30 years. But look, if Lesotho wants me to come in and help King Lesotho out as the prime minister, I would happy to be the benign dictator of Lesotho, and we'll get things fixed. We'll stop relying on remittances, and we'll get people working. Anyway, go ahead.
And the whole thing is that monarchies were not modernized systems. Monarchies were just extensions of families. Your household is not a democracy if you've got a family. There's no democracy in any household. It follows a monarchical structure. Normally it's the husband at the top, or husband and wife at the top, and it goes downwards, and the kids have no say over the running of the house. This is exactly the same thing in businesses. You have a guy who starts a business, he employs people who are underneath him, and so on and so forth, and the company expands that way. Companies run the same way. For some weird reason, we somehow think that suddenly a country needs to be run completely differently. There's no logical reason why a country needs to be run differently to a home or a business, and that structure basically evolved in us from the ground up over thousands of years. Monarchies have been around for thousands of years. They have been the strongest, most stable systems. If they were dominated by evil dictators, the kingdoms would have fallen long ago. But a lot of them have sorry, let me try that again. A lot of them lasted for like 1,000 years, highly successful.
No, absolutely. I got you.
And that's because the people who live there need to feel like they're welcome and that they are free.
Well, I think that's the bottom line, is people have to feel they have freedom and liberty. If you have that, I think you can create any edifice, but any sort of government, people will accept it. I mean, what people lose sight of here, Jeremy, is that because most of us are born into, well, we're all born into some system of governance now. It's not like we can just create a government in most parts unless we overthrow a country. But it wasn't always that way. Humans moved about in bands and organized themselves, and eventually we had sedentary life because we developed agriculture, and that allowed us to free people up to become artisans and politicians and metalsmiths and stuff like that. And we formed polity, or the polity formed government to address the needs of the polity. Now, whether that was a monarch or an emperor or eventually a democracy or a republic, whatever it was. Yeah. But people forget that the governments exist to meet our needs. And that's completely lost on governments. It drives me absolutely nuts.
But I mean, look, another thing that you got to remember about a monarchy versus a democracy. A monarchy has a single owner of that land. All right.
Yes.
So let's just say Swaziland. I mean, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Let's say the Western Cape. Let's say I'm the king of the Western Cape, right? And people go, well, how did you get there? Well, I don't know, like a farm. It gets handed down to you, right, by family. A lot of people hate that concept, but it's the same thing as your household. It's the same thing as your home. It's the same thing as every business. A lot of these things get handed down. They get moved around, or people work for it, and they get allowed into the position. I don't understand why you need to feel that every single person at the bottom has an equal say. You don't ask factory workers for their opinion on the sort of financials and how the financials should be run in a big company. The factory workers don't do that. That's not. They're too low down in the hierarchy. They need to work their way up. Now, in the same way, that can happen on a farm. Farms often get handed down from family to family. It's just the way it is. However, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because multiple farms, for example, have been around for hundreds of years and are highly, highly successful, have extremely happy people who work and live on the farms. Extremely happy. If you hire domestic, let's say you live on a plot and you hire a gardener and a maid or domestic worker, and they will leave if they're not happy. But if they're happy, they will stay there for years and years and years, and they will help your plot flourish, right? But it belongs to you. You are responsible for what happens ultimately. Now, in a democracy, there is no single person responsible. That responsibility is shared across multiple cabinet ministers who don't own anything, so they don't have as much skin in the game. So they could be out of power in 5 years' time. They're basically renting. And that's the difference between ownership and renting. And that's what a monarchy is about: ownership, and a democracy is about renting.
Well, I get your point there. Let me catch a few comments here, and then I'm going to share a thought with you, that because you're talking about, you're questioning democracy, and I'll tell you that traveling around Ghana in 2000, I did the same thing. There'd been a recent election, and I'll tell you that story in a second. Why I started questioning this, because this overarching and this abiding faith in the West in democracy, I began to question the concept of democracy and just what does democracy mean, and I'll explain in a second. But let me get some of the comments very quickly. Okay, so the Southern Metalhead said Elon Musk needs to hurry up with Mars. I'm ready to bail. No, I'm sorry, Southern Metalhead. Those rocket ships are set aside. All reservations are for ANC cadre alone. They're going to Mars. That's who's going to Mars. ANC cadre. So we're going to make sure that happens. Jansa van Rensburg says, good evening to the Chris Wyatt tribe. Just finished watching U.S. South Africa trade video. Got the notification late. Excellent stream. There was, don't worry about that. You didn't get it late. That wasn't a live stream. That was originally a live stream for members' perks. So for members of the channel, that was a live stream I did about 5 days ago. So that if you're a member, this was a strategic, well, I promised to do strategic videos. So this was a presentation on the state of U.S. Africa trade. And so it was live stream for those members. I only had about 8 members because it was only about 8 to 20 people who was eligible to get to it at that time. Had about 8 members who tuned in and commented. So the stream comments you saw weren't live. So that video I just published for everybody today, and a lot of people looked at it already. So you didn't miss it, or maybe you got late notification for this one. Apologize for that. But anyway, so back to the comments here. Germ should just hope Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma is not his queen. I like that comment.
But then I'll leave. Yeah, then I'll leave the kingdom.
Well, there you go. Larsola says, Germ and Chris, should we look to systems of the past to build our future? Left and right politics is about...
Stuart's saying, show me one example of a monarchy, democracy, or communist ideology, or anyone at the bottom has a say. Why should somebody at the bottom have a say? I don't understand that.
No, I think that's where your question was going. But then Nigel says, who decides who is king and queen? I can claim that I'm king, so you, Germ, and Chris better listen to me.
No, well, it doesn't work like that. I mean, that's not how monarchies have operated. And the fact is that history is there. You can go and research it. You can find out yourself.
Yeah, okay, so back to my point. Okay, so I was traveling around Ghana in 2000. They'd had recent elections when Kufuor, I think, won the election, or maybe he did. I can't remember. But it was in the aftermath of the elections. They were recent. And, of course, talk radio had become quite the rage in Accra, and even more entertaining and lively than the U.S. And they were criticizing everything the government did, corruption. It was all in the news. And they weren't shy. And it was a free press. So it was really, really fantastic time to be there.
Ghana's press is more free than South Africa's, just by the way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I would argue in some respects that their talk radio is more free than the U.S. because of what happens with big corporations here and how they try to control what's on what the narrative is. But in Ghana, it was truly free, open discussion, and people just brought up anything. I mean, I was comical listening to Ghanaians complain about Black Americans who act so privileged and condescending, and they're like, yeah, give me a white American any day. Those people at least like us. Anyway, so I'm driving around, and I go out in the countryside up towards the Akasambo Dam area. And I go to one village, and there's posters for one party all over the place, plastered all over, because the election was, within the past several months. And I stopped to get something, a soft drink at a little tuck shop or something like that, a spaza. And I'm chatting with people and asking about, because I'm curious, trying to learn about the politics. That's part of the reason why I'm there. And they're all like, yeah, we voted for these guys. And I'm like, so why did you vote for them? Oh, no, because they're great for Ghana. I said, well, how are they great for Ghana? Well, no, when they came here, they promised us this. I said, well, what did they promise you? And they said, yeah, but they gave us this, and they brought T-shirts and stuff like that. I said, okay, so that's why you voted for them. Okay, and then I went to the next village, and it was a different political party, and the same sort of thing. And as I drove all over Ghana, I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, is this what democracy is? Buying votes from people who are uninformed, who don't know what they're voting for? And in the instance of South Africa, when I say identity politics, people better not infer incorrectly. I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about identity politics. People who identified with the image of the ANC as a liberation party and associate themselves with that. So when I say identity politics in South Africa, people still vote on identity politics on that basis. There's also a race as an issue too. But when I say identity politics, people in the U.S., you have 25% of the voters without question will vote Democrat, whoever the idiot is, and 25% who will vote Republican, whoever the idiot is. They will never change their vote. They will vote straight party. So just take those 50% out of the mix because they're awash. They don't mean anything. And so what is democracy and what does it actually mean? And why are people so into it? I watched in Mali.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, let me tell the story, and then I'll let you jump back in here real quick. Mali. I watched in Mali where for a decade, now I never served in Mali, but I served all around Mali, both sides of it, in Niger and Mauritania. But I watched for a decade where the Department of State crowed about the great democracy programs that the State Department had implemented in Mali and how Mali was an example of a great democracy. And I listened to the Department of Defense talk about how Mali had such a professional military. And I sat there and shook my head and said, wait a second. Do you people realize that the government in power, this is before the army overthrew them a few years ago.
Sorry, Chris.
Home invasion?
Give me 1 second.
Home invasion?
Just give me 1 second. I think it's raining and my dogs are outside.
Go get your dogs.
Hang on
go get your dogs.
1 sec.
All right, go get your dogs. Man, I lost Unathi. Now I've lost Jeremy. I just can't keep a guest today. What's going on? Yikes. Let me look at the chat real quick while he's away. Odez. Is Odez here? Or let's laugh about Odez. Oh, yes, Odez. Okay. Biden puts the Dem in dementia. Ooh, Ito Gold. That's a good one. I like that. Biden puts the Dem in dementia. Corley, I liked my ANC is off to Mars. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, here he comes. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, it is raining.
No, you're back. I'm like, damn, I can't keep a guest. I lost Unathi. Now Jeremy's abandoned me. I just can't keep a guest on this channel.
Oh, shame, man. My dogs are wet. It started raining heavily now here in Cape Town.
What? No, global warming. There's no rain in Cape Town. Haven't you kept up with events?
I am thoroughly enjoying global warming right now.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get good weather there. But so back to Mali. So the State Department crows about what a great democracy it is, and then the DoD crows about what a professional military is. And then people are puzzled in 2013 when 3 weeks before an election, the Army has a coup and overthrows the president. People are like, why didn't they wait 3 weeks? Well, because there's a lot of reasons for it. But number one, they sent an army with only half the soldiers having weapons, only half of them having any ammunition, no water buffaloes, no rations, no body armor into the north against Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, who came into Timbuktu wearing black body armor, which was better quality than the stuff that I was issued in combat.
Right.
With in English on the front stenciled, Islamic Police of Timbuktu. And on the back, they had the same thing in Arabic. They came in armored vehicles, and that's what they sent the army. That's why they overthrew the government. But anyway, the government, that government only represented at most 16% of the population of the country, clustered in the south around the capital of Bamako. And then these idiots are running around going, what a great democracy. No, it's not. That's not a democracy. It doesn't represent anybody, and it's fragile. Anyway, so I've been questioning this stuff for a long time, and I don't know what the solution is because there's a lot of stupid people who vote.
If you really want to get red pilled on this, I would recommend Democracy, The God That Failed by Hans Hermann Hoppe, and probably one of the best books that I have read in the year 2020. Chris, do yourself a favor, get yourself a Kindle version or an audiobook version of Matt Ridley's The Evolution of Everything.
I think I might have that.
It is one of the best books I have ever read. I'm going to read it a second time. In fact, the first chapter was so good that I read the first chapter 4 times before I went on to the second chapter. It was so good. Just to get my head wrapped around it. It was so brilliant. And if you read that book, you will start seeing why monarchy doesn't argue. He doesn't argue at all about political systems, but you will see how monarchy is a way. It's not even a system. It's the closest form of governance to natural order, and it's the closest form of governance that allows individualism. Democracy ignores individualism. It's about the collective. That's what democracy is. It's about collectivizing the votes to get somebody in power. I have voted since I was able to vote, and never has the person I voted for come into power ever.
Well, I'm fortunate in that respect. I've actually had better success, but it hasn't been perfect, that's for sure. So, but the problem for me is that oftentimes, because of the way the system is, it's not the person I wanted, but it's the person I'm willing to vote for. So Trump wasn't my first choice. Ted Cruz was. I would have voted for Ted Cruz till the cows come home. The guy's brilliant.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for him, he's not very attractive, and that matters in politics.
For sure. And also the other problem is people, I mean, as Rob Digan on my show said, he said, what is it with academia and intellectuals whose default position is pro-democracy? If you are anti-democracy, somehow you're considered backwards. And why is that? Why is that? Why is the default understanding that democracy is the best system we have? What is the thinking behind that, and how did you arrive at that thought process? Let me tell you right now, Chris, I'm right now living in a democracy. Well, I'm not allowed to go out after 10 o'clock at night. Just until recently, I wasn't allowed to buy cooked chicken or open shoes. Right? Let me carry on.
E-commerce,
right now,
no alcohol. I know.
right now, alcohol is banned. I'm not allowed to buy alcohol, and I'm not a smoker, but smokers are not allowed to buy cigarettes. Now, I'm living in a democracy. Can you tell me why I have a curfew in a democracy? Explain to me, Chris, how it is that this country is now going into a minus 10% growth, because people have been forced out of jobs. So when people make the default position that democracy is the best system we have, I can actually argue that that's completely and utterly nonsensical. At least where I'm sitting right now, it's a terrible system. And it's literally killing millions of people. But then you can say, oh, okay, but this is a strange event and we're in a pandemic. Okay, that doesn't matter. It's still a democracy.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Because Sweden isn't a democracy as far as I know. It's something of a constitutional monarchy or something. And that's irrelevant because whoever their authorities are decided to approach this thing differently. The US, I suspect, if Trump had a bit more power, he wouldn't have allowed all the lockdowns and things that have happened in the US. But the point is this: that the default position is that democracy is amazing. Okay, well, I don't see this, and then you quickly start making excuses, which doesn't work for me.
Yeah, no, I got you. But I got a couple comments on that. But folks, you're listening to Chris Wyatt Africa on the Adaba Africa channel here on a Saturday. My guest for the regular Saturday stream was supposed to be Unathi Kwaza, but we had a scheduling conflict. So we've rescheduled Unathi for Monday, 12 Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. in Botswana and South Africa, 5 p.m. in Windhoek, Abuja, and London. That's for Monday. And so this is not Unathi Kwaza. You may have noticed that. This is Jeremy Nelf, the acclaimed, award-winning political cartoonist who is quite the caustic commentator on YouTube. Here advocating monarchy and has got everybody in an uproar. We got our panties in a bunch at the moment. Whoops, that's probably
actually quite fun.
Was that misogynist? I don't think it was. Some of us also wear panties. So some men wear panties, so I don't know that was misogynist. But yeah, so let me say. Okay, so here's the reason why people believe democracy is the solution. Okay, because for decades we have been inculcating that in the Western world into education systems so that people think that is the answer, that is the solution, that is the be-all, end-all. Just like in America where we've got this concept that home ownership is a social good and that it's a societal good. I disagree with the concept. I have nothing against home ownership, but the reality is that we're hoodwinking people into thinking they own their homes because fully 80% of homes are owned by banks, not by individuals, because you have a mortgage. And you stop paying that mortgage to see how long you have that house. That's the first thing. Second thing is that you never really own it anyway because the state pays tax. I have to pay thousands of dollars a year in taxes, whether I have a mortgage or not, just to have this house. And if I don't pay it, the state will take my house. So you never really own it. You're a wage slave to the state or to a bank. Now, I'm not criticizing the system because it makes cash available for people who don't have a large amount to be able to buy a house and pay it off over time. And it's actually, I'm fine with that. I have no problem with that. But what I'm saying is that this social good has been inculcated. People think it's great. I remember the George Bush administration, the junior, was crowing in the mid part of the aught decade about black home ownership is at record levels. I'm like, so what? So that means they're all in debt. Wonderful. Yay, they're not renting houses. They're in debt. So it's those sort of things that we inculcate in people, and that's what this is. Democracy is good. It's just like the State Department. Well, look, Mali's a democracy. So what? It's not a genuine democracy. It's not. And even if it is a genuine democracy, it's. Now, I will go back to something you said earlier. Now, your approach to this, and this is not meant to be pointed at you, but your approach to this is very paternalistic. I could say to you that the National Coronavirus Command Council, which is an undemocratic, unelected, unaccountable, capricious body, or as I like to say, hashtag sack of cock, they're also paternalistic. And the reason you don't get any say in your democracy is because it's not being run like a democracy. They're violating the tenets of the democracy, and they're acting in a paternalistic fashion. And there you go. Boom. Mic drop.
No, that's a fair comment. But remember, a monarchy isn't about allowing equal say. I mean, you can say something in a monarchy. I'm not in any way advocating slavery or peasantry or anything like that. As I said, Liechtenstein is a great example. Monaco is also very close to being a proper monarchy. It's extremely wealthy and free. The point I'm making is that if your monarchy is running with a good leader, in the same way, if your democracy has a good government, because remember, a president is only as strong as his cabinet. You can get vetoed and voted and gates and all kinds of things, right? But a king has the final say of everything. And if he says we've got no elections and no political parties, well, that's great, because now people can actually do real work that are productive. And in history, throughout history, there a lot of monarchies have had tax systems, yes, but would you believe that there are many that haven't had tax systems because the land has been so brilliant to them? They didn't need to tax people. They only needed to pay taxes, not on themselves, but on some of their goods. But the tax systems in some monarchies throughout history have been extremely, extremely low. And that's because the king in those times wanted a very, very happy population. Now, if you are very happy, you're very free to do things, you will be productive, you'll invent, you'll innovate, and you'll live a very successful life. And you'll be able to leave and move between cities or countries or whatever. However, there's a mindset, and I think a lot of this has to do with movies and books and stuff, that all monarchies are just these evil dictatorships. And that's entirely not true, because if that were true, they wouldn't have lasted as long as they've lasted throughout history. And I think that's the point. And the point is this, that if you got a lousy king, yeah, sure, okay, then it's the luck of the draw. But hey, I've got a lousy president in a democracy. Well, and that's the luck of my draw. You've got a great president. I've got a terrible president.
Well, I had a terrible president a couple years ago. I had to suffer 8 years through that nonsense. I actually did. And arguably the one before that wasn't all that impressive either, although he had a few good policies. But I think that one of the challenges with this is that it's a question of size, too. I mean, could we possibly have a monarchy in a country the size of India? It would never work.
You can't even have America as a monarchy.
No, it wouldn't work. Then I think that... excuse me, that now I don't think this is necessary, but I think it certainly serves a purpose to make it more functional, is homogeneity can make a difference in having a monarchy.
It's huge. I mean, that's why Japan is highly successful in many respects. But let me give you an example, Chris. So I live in an estate, all right? South Africa has estates all over the place.
You mean the physical property you're living in?
Yeah, so a housing estate.
Right, you've got covenants, you've got rules, you've got conditions you must live under. Yeah, I got you.
There's a wall.
We have
and you've got gates.
We have them in estates too. Yep.
So tell me the difference between that and a monarchy. We have essentially a hierarchical structure that rules how this place looks and how it works. If we don't like it, we are welcome to leave and go to another housing estate. we don't let people in unless we allow them in. You know what I mean? People just the walls are there for a reason. It works. It's successful, and they are all over the place. These are essentially little kingdoms, and you can expand these to some degree. Like you have 23,000 people in Liechtenstein, and it can expand to a point where it gets to a natural state of division, and then it will split again. So it is about size, but size does matter, Chris.
I said that on my stream last night, and it didn't go over so well. Yeah, I quickly moved past it, but the chat didn't.
We can talk about this like for hours and weeks and whatever, and it's all philosophical. But the point is this: is that it is good, I think, now and then to chat about this. It gets your brain thinking a little bit. It's not just wacky thoughts. I mean, people have been writing books about this for a long time, and I think to rule out ideas like this, I think is a very bad thing. I think we should be open to the ideas. What we can see now is that democracy doesn't work in Africa at all. Show me a successful democratic country in Africa.
Botswana, Cape Verde, Mauritius,
but
Rwanda,
Botswana.
Ghana.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Ghana is doing okay. Botswana, but they're also coming off low bases.
Yeah, no, all of those are small countries. Rwanda has 16 million people.
Yeah.
Ghana has, I think, 32 million.
And the populations do make a difference. South Africa's got 60 million people. So South Africa would do better with multiple democracies as a starting point.
Well, you've got 58 million South Africans and 5 million illegal aliens. So, okay, add them in.
Right. So, I mean, South Africa would be a hell of a lot better if it's split into, say, 11 countries. Even splitting into 2 countries is a good start. Splitting into multiple countries, and if those were democracies, dare I say it, they would still be more successful than what it is right now. And then, of course, you can start breaking. Basically, the more local you go, the more successful it goes. That's the theory of scale.
Well, one of the strengths of our representative democracy in this country is that for a long time we had strong local and state municipal governments, county administrations, things like that. All of those play a role. One of the things I think that's really been affected by this country in the 20th century, and it continues to this day, is the role of the federal government expanding into those spaces and taking that sovereignty away from the that was one of the strengths of federalism, and it's, I think, upset the apple cart in many respects. And so it comes from 2 pressures. It comes from above, the elites, the technocrats pushing down, trying to usurp the power, but it also comes from lazy shits in the other end who look to the federal government to hand them things out that they're too lazy to do for themselves. And the 2 forces together have been weakening the edifice of representative democracy and the republic in this country for the better part of a century. There was a time over a century ago in which we didn't have social security. And the way that people took care of their elders, or you save for retirement, was, imagine this, Jeremy. You did it on your own, or your community was responsible. Faith-based groups.
Can you imagine?
Your church, your mosque, your synagogue, your community took care of others. And now a faceless bureaucrat who hands you out a 9-digit number from Baltimore, Maryland, determines your fate and allows your identity to be stolen by nefarious people.
Yeah, imagine.
We have cases of people, these are true stories where someone steals an identity, they get a social security number, they commit a crime, get charged with rape. This happened in Georgia. A guy skipped Georgia because he was charged with rape, but he used a fake identification, and that went in the system. And they fingerprint him. And fortunately, the guy whose identity was stolen had never been fingerprinted. So he was in Florida and crossed into Georgia and got pulled over for some reason, was handcuffed, arrested, and thrown in jail, and spent nearly a week in jail because they said he was a rapist, and he was about to be arraigned for a trial for rape in which he had nothing to do. And the guy's total life was upset. So this is what can happen when states get out of control. But anyway, I'm getting off track.
No, it's fine. And if you think about this, if you take 10 people, okay, this is now a thought experiment, but if all 10 people were babies on an island and they grew up together, what would happen is that over time, they would naturally form, or they'd naturally decide on who the strongest character is, and that person will become sort of in a leadership position.
We've seen this movie. It's called Lord of the Flies.
Yes. But that's what happens when you don't have social order.
Yeah.
When you don't enforce your social order, and that's That's one of the things that I think people need to reclaim about conservatism. Conservatism is about social order. It is about having. It's not about everybody doing what they want, because then you end up with Black Lives Matter,
Right. Absolutely.
or Antifa. That's not social order.
Or the Democratic National Committee.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Conservatism is about the sovereignty of the individual, and it's about the sovereignty of the community also. It's
Well,
about the importance of the tribe.
I agree, but what's disturbing about it is that conservatives have allowed, this country and the West have allowed the media and politicians to paint conservatism as anti-freedom, as backwards, as Neanderthals, as racist, as bigots, as homophobes. All of that's horse manure. You know, I'm a conservative, and I got nothing against people based on their sexuality, nothing whatsoever. I don't really give a flip. You know, it was funny because, not funny, but sad. In the military, we would deal with this all the time with civilians. Oh, you're in the military, you hate gays. Why do you say that? Because you have don't ask, don't tell. No, the idiotic Clinton administration imposed that policy on the Department of Defense as a matter of law. And under that, listen to this, Jeremy, this is how stupid it was. So under don't ask, don't tell, this is what it meant. You could be a homosexual serving an active duty in the military, but you couldn't tell anyone. So if you told anyone, as soon as someone found out, the commander had to be informed. And what that meant was the following. And this, I worked in intelligence, so this really affected us because in intelligence, we spent a lot of money training soldiers in language skills, interrogation skills, signals intel, all these different high specialties. And so we get young kids coming in, 18, 19 years old. They go to their base training. They get to their specialized training. We send them to Monterey. They learn Arabic or Farsi or French or whatever for 6 months to a year and a half, depending on the course, or Urdu. And we invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into training one individual soldier. And remember, they got to be fit, no criminal record. So it's not easy to find these people. And then they get to a unit and they go, I don't like it here. 6 o'clock, running every morning, carrying a rucksack. This sucks, man. And so how do you get out? Well, the easy way to get out, no harm, no foul, is you go to your commander and say, sir or ma'am, I'm gay. And right there, don't ask, don't tell. This is what happened. We as commanders could not ask any more questions. We said, okay, thank you for informing. Thank you for informing me. And then we have to start separation proceedings and separate them with honorable discharge because they're homosexual and couldn't serve.
No, man. No, that's ridiculous.
No, but we didn't come up with that. We didn't ask for that situation. But civilians assume because the military has those rules, but the civilians apply those rules to us. It's like now it's, the military U.S. Army went from a position where we were supposed to, kick people out for being gay to that was removed. Then the next year we were supposed to celebrate gay. And then the year later, the Chief of Staff of the Army is telling us we're supposed to go participate in gay pride parades. Well, stop. You can't turn a ship like this around that quickly and expect people's culture to adapt in 18 months. Now they're supposed to go to gay pride. You can't even tell us to go to gay pride.
And just so you know, both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, both of them said that marriage is for a man and a woman only. Then they did the 180s on it later on.
Of course they did when it was.
By the way, for the record, I do think that marriage is for man and woman. But I'm not opposed to gay marriage. I'm just saying that in the traditional sense, it is for a man and woman. But I'm in no way am I opposing gay marriage.
Well, let me share my take on gay marriage with you, if you don't mind. Okay, so this is, I think, a reasonable approach, and not everybody agrees. So you get tagged for it, but the issue I have, I'm not a particularly devout person. I don't go to church, that sort of thing, but I have my own faith, and that's my business and nobody else's. But I recognize that historically, marriage has been a religious institution recognized by faiths. Yeah. Not a civil institution. It wasn't until much later, long after human beings have been married in their faith, whatever the faith may be, that states began to recognize it because it conferred certain benefits on them. Yeah. So you have really two terms here. You have marriage, a religious institution, and you have a civil union, which is the state recognized. We just by default call all of them marriages, but technically those by the state are not marriages, they're civil unions. Okay. I think that's an important distinction. And I think a lot of the problem with the concept of gay marriage that was hitting a lot of people of faith was that they took offense because their faith had tenets against homosexuality. Right. And so their argument was that it can't be a marriage because their deity won't recognize it. Now, I'm not saying agree or disagree. I'm just saying this is what they said. And then they said, but a lot of them said, you know what, if you want to have the state recognized as a civil union, I'm okay with that. Now, my position was I found it deeply offensive to dismiss people of faith who are the vast majority of people in most countries out of hand by these leftists by calling them backward when that's their faith. We don't call you backward because you believe that climate change, your religion of climate change is your religion.
Yeah.
We'll call you stupid, but not, not backward. That's different. But anyway, so that's kind of my position on is that I have no objection to the civil union, and everyone who gets married and recognized by the state should be a civil union. But those, if you're Catholic, your church doesn't recognize your marriage unless you get married in the church.
Yeah. So the term marriage is essentially and historically between a man and a woman.
Yes.
That's just history. It's not a bigoted thing to say. It is.
No,
it is what it is.
It's a fact.
It is what it is. Yeah. And that's the thing about conservatism that I think people need to understand and reclaim.
Mm-hmm.
Conservatism is about preserving. It's about preserving what is. It's about preserving traditions, values, and other wholesome ways of life that are no longer considered normal. It's about pulling back on constant progress, and progress isn't always a good thing. Progress for the sake of progress is chaotic, and that's why it's very important that there needs to be an uprising in conservatives globally. I think it was Gavin McInnes who said that conservatism is the new counterculture.
Yeah, I don't know if that's who it was. That's interesting.
I might be wrong. I'm
not sure. Hey, can we shift gears, because there's a comment that came earlier
Yes.
that I wanted to get back to. That Anna Marie Forster asked a question earlier. What do you and Germ think of the perfect team that was appointed to investigate the corruption in South African government? I think my response and Germ's response probably tells you how we feel. But go ahead, Germ. You comment on that first.
Let me just read the question again. Where is it?
Oh, it was way back. It was at 12:46. I'll read it aloud. It was what do you and Germ think of the perfect team that was appointed to investigate the corruption in South African government?
Can I call a friend?
Yeah. Which you need a lifeline there.
I'll go 50-50 with the crowd.
50-50 with the crowd. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Listen, hey, while we're laughing at that, let me just share something with you. So I was not you may have liked them based on your world, how you like totalitarian states like the monarchies. But anyway, no, but when the Scorpions were created back in the day, I was like, whoa. I don't like the sound of this. This is an extrajudicial body with the power to arrest, issue warrants, prosecute, imprison people. That seems to me to be outside the Constitution, outside the norm. I'm opposed to it. I will say that after I saw the Scorpions in action, and until they finally started going after ANC politicians who were corrupt, they were amazing. And in my view, they did an amazing bang-up job of actually hunting down, criminal syndicates, dismantling them, putting people in prison, and actually overcame the bad
that's how
state.
they were dismantled.
Well, yeah, exactly. But they overcame the bad state of the judicial system in South Africa and the prosecutorial process, and actually made people pay for their crimes. But then, of course, they went after politicians because they found them to be involved in it, and then they had to go away and be replaced by the chicken hawks. But anyway, so yeah, now you know how I feel about the chicken hawks.
They lost their sting.
Yeah. So the Scorpions, they lost their sting, and then they went after Leonard McCarthy. They tried to persecute him and claim he was corrupt and told all kinds of lies about Leonard McCarthy. He's a colored man. I guess it's okay to attack colors in South Africa. I mean, it's not a black thing.
I must be careful, because you're in the US.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you can be prosecuted, but be careful. There is no such thing as free speech in South Africa. We know this.
No, there isn't. But I don't think. I don't know. It's weird. Hey? It's weird. You can say stuff, but it all depends on the outrage.
Well, yeah, and as long as you frame it in the right context, you've got yourself covered politically. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're the editor of News 24, then you can say anything. Apparently, if you're Joe Biden, you can say all black people are the same, and everybody will still vote for him.
Well, it doesn't mean anything. It came from Joe. Uncle Joe's a good guy. He's black like me.
Can you believe he said that?
Yes, I can. The guy is a famous bigot. I find it hilarious that black Americans put their confidence in this gentleman, who I'm not aware of anything he's ever done for the black American community.
I mean. He literally says on TV that all black people are the same.
Yeah.
Other than a few,
Well,
a few exceptions.
what about the comment he said that, if you don't vote for me, you're not black? What? What? So if I don't vote for you, am I not white? Come on, what the hell is he talking about? God,
It's nuts, eh? Hey,
No.
listen, very very off topic. I want
Yeah.
to ask you.
Yeah.
So I subscribed recently to Apple TV. I'm kind of living in hope that it might be a good subscription, because Netflix is fantastic for documentaries. Okay, right, fine.
No, I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I've got Netflix and it's great.
It's okay.
Documentaries are pretty damn good. I mean, I've seen very interesting documentaries on it. Apple TV still got very little on it, but
Amazon has a lot of documentaries on Prime, if you can get that.
we've got our Amazon was terrible.
Well, you may not have all the content that I get here, but
Yeah.
they have a lot of documentaries, and I'd say about 2/3 of them are pretty good. But anyway, go ahead.
Amazon Prime here is basically Bollywood. Anyway,
Well,
but
you should ask for Nollywood too.
yeah, maybe. So I started watching an excellent series on Apple TV called The Morning Show
The Morning Show.
with Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, and Steve Carell.
Okay.
My goodness me, I've never seen Jennifer Aniston act so well before. It's a drama, so it's not. I mean, it's not funny, but she is so good, and they touch on all the hot topics at the moment. All the hot topics.
Is this a drama, or is it like a talk show, or what?
No, it's a drama. It's a drama that's based on a morning news.
Okay,
show.
so morning, like Good Morning America or something like that, the Today Show, something like
Yes,
that.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So it's called The Morning Show, and it's sorry, excuse me. I hope that's COVID.
Got it.
It's based on them being sort of news anchors, and it's the whole thing about all the politics in the news network, and they really make the media out to look terrible. It's fantastic.
There's a lot of these programs over the years. I mean, we had Sports Night, which was groundbreaking in its day. It did it was like doing ESPN sort of thing. It was brilliant how they did the news. Then we had what's the other one with Bill? What's his name? But there's a whole bunch of these different programs that are out there, and some of them are good. They had Studio 54, which was pretty good. That was Matthew.
That was about Andy Warhol.
No. Matthew Perry was in that, or maybe I've called it the wrong one. Studio 60 or something like that. Maybe it wasn't 54. Yeah, no, it's not the club in New York. But it was for a studio where they did a news program. There's been a number of these things. But I haven't seen this one. But I mean, listen, I don't watch Jennifer Aniston to see how good she acts.
I'm on your side, Chris.
Okay.
Represent, my friend, represent. You know what? For what? She's 50 or 54 or something, or 52.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
She looks fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Some folks really take care of themselves. Barbara Eden, Jeannie from I Dream of Jeannie, and that woman when she hit 70 still looked like she was like 48 or 50. She really took care of herself.
Have you seen how? I mean, okay, so Jen comes from the cast of Friends. They
Yes.
all look terrible. Monica, what's her name?
Courtney Cox. Yeah, ooh,
She looks awful.
ooh, yeah. Courtney Cox.
She looks like a doll. And her skin is tight on her face.
I think she had face work done, so that's part of the problem. People just can't accept age, and they get these facelifts, and it's crazy.
But I've got to tell you, a lot of the country singers, the US country singers, the women who are much older, in life, a lot of them look fantastic. I actually saw a new song that came out recently with Dolly Parton, and she looks great. How old is she? She's like 70.
She's in her 70s. Dolly Parton is, whether you like country or not, she is an amazing performer. She has energy,
incredible.
just amazing. She's just, and she's quite a businesswoman too. I mean, she started all kinds of things, a theme park, Dollywood. She's done all these different things, and she's kind of a mentor for a lot of people. No, it was Dollywood. Seriously, there was a place called Dollywood. It's down in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Yeah, no, it's true. I know you're laughing, but it's true.
She's fantastic, man.
No, she really is
fantastic.
Really talented person. Hey, real quick, Penny Williams gave a 35 Rand super chat, said, we are not in line for a monarch, so let's seriously just get the ANC out first, and we have to do that with democracy. Penny, I'm with Penny. I'm with 2021 starts last month, not 3 months before the election 2021. If you're in a political opposition party in South Africa and you're not out in townships, rural countryside, in mining camps, and the cities and the residential areas in South Africa right now, while you don't have lockdown trapping you. If you're not doing that, then shame on you. And when I say if you're not doing that, if you're not out convincing people about what's going on, and look, all you have to do is run commercials of verbatim press conferences from the National Coronavirus Command Council and just see how, say, is this what you want? Did you like the ban on open-toed shoes? Because look, we all know that COVID-19 is notoriously transmitted primarily through the big toe. That's how we all get the corona, through the big toe. So of course that's why we ban open-toed shoes in South Africa. Why e-commerce is stopped, because we all know that not going to stores, staying in your homes, and having one person in a warehouse grab a box with a little tool and not even touch it and drop it in a bin so it gets carried down, gets wrapped up automatically on a machine, address label stamped that you never touch it, gets loaded on the truck, and then some postal person who's wearing gloves picks it up and drops it out in front of your house. We know that that's a primary means of transmission for COVID-19. So thank God the Minister of No Trade, Ibrahim Patel, put a ban on e-commerce, because we wouldn't want that sector to flourish.
Thank goodness for people like him, Chris.
No, I tell you, he's such a genius, such a genius. I'm telling you. So you've got the Minister of No Trade, Ibrahim Patel. You've got the Minister of irrational governance and non-traditional affairs or something like that. You know, you got her, and then you've got the Minister of Injustice, Radi Lamola. You know, you've got such wonderful characters in South Africa. I have to compliment you guys.
If I haven't demonetized your video yet, then I'll do that right now quickly by asking you your view.
Go ahead. I made a couple shekels off of Steve yesterday, so go ahead.
All right. So what happened in Beirut?
Well, what happened in Beirut? Well, man, I'll tell you what. That sucks. That really, really sucks. Well, I'll tell you what happened. This is what happened. Piss poor governance. Who in their right mind puts that kind of explosive material in a warehouse and leaves it there for a year in a place poorly ventilated next to a factory where people are making explosives?
Can I tell you who does that?
Go ahead. Democracies.
Hezbollah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say democracies.
No, Hezbollah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just utterly insane. I'll tell you what. I played a couple of videos that were made available. People were showing, and of course, people were on their balconies, you know, a couple kilometers away. And So what I did tell people, because we had the survivalist stream on this week with the Citizen Guardian, who was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he's still there, but the Citizen Guardian came on. We talked about survivalists and preppers and all that stuff on Wednesday this week. It's a really good guest. And I talked about the video. I said one of the things I didn't like the situation, but I liked about the video is that one of the folks that was filming this, when the explosion took place, the concussion came, no one knew what was going on. This could have been Israeli bombing. It could have been Katyusha rockets. I mean, Beirut's accustomed. There's 25 years of civil war. They haven't forgotten this. So what do these people do? They immediately went to get out of the building because they're in a building that could collapse on them. And they went to the stairwell, not elevators. They went down the stairwell and they went out in orderly fashion. And people were recording. The guy was recording. I was like, well done. That he responded well. But I mean, when you spend 25 years of growing up with bombs exploding around you, you learn how to respond to that sort of thing. And a lot of people in that situation respond in the best way possible. But I saw footage of the hospitals. Oh my God, the carnage was just, my heart goes out to those people. What a bunch of idiots. Anyway.
Well, at least now we've now demonetized your video.
No, I've taken to using the phonetic alphabet when I talk about Bravo Lima Mike, because apparently saying Bravo Lima Mike gets you demonetized.
Well, I also talk about 6 minus 1G.
6 minus 1G. Oh, okay, gotcha. You know, all this excitement over that. Wait 2 years, and when we get 6G, this will all be passé. You'll be talking about 6. I mean, seriously, you know, all this hysteria. But people have asked me. You know,
Apparently, the new iPhone will have 5G.
Okay. Well, the Samsung S20 is on. Yeah, we went from 20 to 10 to 20 in Samsung. By the way, I like that big jump. Go ahead, tell me.
I discovered something from about Siri last night. I want to play it for you.
She's not real.
Listen to this. No, listen to this. I kid you not. Okay. Listen to this. Okay.
Go ahead.
Hey Siri, do white lives matter?
Okay. I found this on the web for Hey Siri, do white lives matter? Check it out.
Okay, right. You ready?
Yeah.
Hey Siri, do black lives matter?
Yes, black lives matter.
One more.
Okay.
Hey Siri, do all lives matter?
All lives matter is often used in response to the phrase, Black Lives Matter, but it does not represent the same concerns. To learn more about the Black Lives Matter human rights movement, visit blacklivesmatter.com.
Well, I would be adopting that, saying to learn more about the Black Lives Matter terrorist organization, go to their website where they clearly spell out they're against the nuclear family, in favor of fatherless children, and also have called for the removal of Christ from the church as well as defunding law enforcement. Oh my God, look, this is beyond reprehensible. The fact that happens. Now, the Siri thing, I had an iPhone, and I found it to be a useless piece of paperweight where the battery died on me in a number of hours, and you had to change the password every 3 days. It never recognized your password, and I hate Apple. I mean, I have iPads, I've had tablets, and their PCs, but anyway, but their phone. And Siri, I tried Siri, and it just, my favorite thing about Siri is watching The Big Bang Theory. When he goes, here, let me check out my phone. Call Rajesh Kutrapali. Or something like and they're joking around. He goes, call for Lulu. He goes, calling Rajesh Kutrapali. This Siri thing doesn't work. Call calling Rajesh Kutrapali. Come on.
I remember that.
Oh, and I must say, yeah, go ahead.
I must say, I am a fan of Apple, so.
Look, listen, man, I'm not a fan of Apple. They're rich white people toys. And that used to resonate with people because only rich white people had them when I used to say that. But now everybody's got them.
What's wrong with rich white people, Chris?
Nothing. I'm not one of them. No, I got nothing against rich white people. I want to be one of them.
Listen, how long have we been chatting?
It's probably time to cut off because the infamous Ronaldo will be coming on soon. I don't want to intrude on his stream. So.
My throat's getting a bit dry. Having to clear it quite a bit now.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, listen, Jerm, thanks a lot for jumping in and spreading your monarchy lies on my stream today. I appreciate it.
It's only a great pleasure. I do love spreading propaganda, Chris.
Well, listen, you're in good company. We get it from Pretoria, we get it from Washington, we get it from London. So why not from the Western Cape, courtesy of the great germ warfare? So no, but seriously, thanks for filling in a pinch. I appreciate it. I enjoyed this stream.
It's a great pleasure.
And thanks for putting the hammer on because I was about to look over and say just as you said that. So listen, my streams can go forever.
Yeah, if I can end by just by saying this, even if I change my views a year from now, 2 years from now. The point is that I think one of the greatest things that we can do as humans is learn, read, listen to others, go on a route of self-discovery. The reason why I am chatting about monarchy is because I'm reading about it and I'm being persuaded by excellent arguments. If I end up reading about, democracy again, and the argument is excellent, then I'll be persuaded. Isn't that the beauty of thinking? And that's the battle of ideas, that we must be able to engage and have these chats and learn, even if I'm wrong or if I'm right, it doesn't matter. Don't you think?
No, I absolutely agree. And if I'm not mistaken, the battle of ideas is part of your tagline for germ warfare, if I remember correctly. I love that. That was a good plug in there. What I say constantly on my channel is that discourse is the elixir of life. It's I don't mind people coming on my channel who disagree with me. That's fine, and we can have a cogent conversation. It's the people who bully and attack people and try to squash free thought and ideas. So listen, I don't necessarily buy into the idea of monarchies. I agree with you that it works in small populations, particularly homogenous ones. It can be beneficial, but then there's always the possibility if it's hereditary. Maybe if it's an elected monarch, maybe that's we all turn over the responsibility. So you and I don't necessarily agree on that, but we can find common ground on that.
Absolutely.
But look, I'm still willing to be the benign dictator of a small African country, Eswatini,
for sure.
Lesotho.
For sure.
I'm up for it. Even Namibia. But I would need a blue light escort because it's a big country and it's a long drive.
You can have the blue lights. I'm always happy to find where the red lights are.
It's funny. A lot of people watch my channel, and I think they're just actually totally surprised at how much I understand and know about South Africa. They're like, you know about blue light escorts? Yeah, I've been run off the road by those jackasses.
I actually find that a lot of people miss my dad jokes. I often make these subtle one-liners, and then I realize, okay, no one got it, and then I feel like an idiot.
Don't sweat it. Well, listen, it's I used to make these generation-specific jokes, but everything always comes back. So I used to, Scooby-Doo, and nobody got that for 15 or 20 years, and now they made a movie about it, live action, and everybody gets Scooby-Doo again. It's like Marvel Comics. It kind of was in the wilderness, and nobody got what I was talking about, and then suddenly they know about it again. So Anyway,
May I, before I leave, may I
Yeah.
quickly give a plug? I'm doing
Please.
a live stream tomorrow. It's Women's Day. I don't know if it's international or South Africa.
No,
I'm
it's
not sure.
I think it's South Africa Women's Day. I don't think it's
Oh,
international.
okay,
but
so
yeah.
I'm doing a Women's Day stream tomorrow at 12 o'clock with Advocate Leopard, and we're going to be chatting about how great men are.
Oh, awesome! So it will not be a misandry show. You know, it's funny that how few people actually know that term because they know misogyny, but they don't know misandry.
Yeah.
And given how rampant misandry is today, particularly against white Anglo-Saxon Protestant males, wah,
So, what better way to enjoy Women's Day than by celebrating men?
well, maybe we can watch reruns of The Man Show with Adam Carolla. I love The Man Show. That was hilarious, you know. Or maybe we just watch Tom Selleck in Magnum PI and celebrate that manliness there.
All right, man.
All right.
Thanks, Chris. It's been great.
All right, Jeremy. Thanks a lot, man. We're gonna tune in and watch Ronaldo talk about maintenance from Steve Hofmeyer. So that's important.
Cheers.
All right. See ya. All right, folks. That's oops. I got to fix that. Hang on. That looks really weird, doesn't it? So zoom right, Chris. Zoom left, Chris. Let me go to zoom all participants. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, my many thanks to my guest Jeremy Nell from Germ Warfare. The Battle of Ideas. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you are a fan or at least a supporter of Jeremy's channel. There are no links to his stream below this video because it was supposed to be Unathi Kwaza, but a scheduling conflict meant that she's going to be on Monday. So I'll put up another posting for that. Please tune in tomorrow on my channel. Tomorrow I have on the channel Rian Lerm, who is an ecologist and a co-founder of the Palabora Natural Heritage Foundation, and they're into conservation and ecology around Kruger National Park. And so he'll be my guest tomorrow at noon, special feature, noon Eastern Standard Time, at 6 p.m. in Botswana and South Africa, 5 p.m. in Namibia, in Nigeria, and in the UK. So please check it out tomorrow, folks. That'll be at noon Eastern Standard Time. And then we'll have Unathi Kwaza on Monday. Once again, should be on the channel. For all those who watch the stream, thank you so much for that. To my guest, Jeremy, really, I appreciate you jumping in as a last-minute fill-in there. It was great. I enjoyed the conversation. And interesting, he's really on this monarch kick. So we're going to have to see what that's all about. Anyway, thanks, folks. I appreciate it. I will do a Night Owls version of the live stream, Stray Voltage, later tonight at 9:35 in South Africa and Botswana, at 3:35 Eastern Standard Time here in the U.S. on this lovely Saturday on the 8th of August, 2020. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll catch you a little bit later. Appreciate your support. God bless, and have a good break until I see you again in a couple of hours, folks. There you go. Let me shut this off, and I'll put on my closing video.